You settle into the night as if it settles into you, a shared agreement of quiet. The room fades, and the sky feels close enough to breathe. You imagine the universe not as a place you must travel to, but as something already holding you. Stars become distant lanterns, steady and patient. Questions arrive without urgency, drifting like slow clouds. You are not searching for answers yet. You are only listening, letting curiosity loosen its grip, allowing wonder to arrive softly, without effort, without demand, the way sleep often does, when night finally teaches the body how to rest fully. You think about darkness, how it is usually treated as absence, yet feels full tonight. Space between stars is not empty, it is active, humming, gently structured. In this darkness, gravity waits quietly, shaping paths without being seen. You feel it in your own body, the subtle sense of weight and grounding. Gravity is not forceful here. It whispers instead, inviting attention inward. This is where black holes first appear, not as threats, but as ideas, forming slowly, patiently, in the background of thought, where curiosity rests, breathing evenly, unafraid, alert, calm, open, receptive, waiting, listening, drifting inward, deeper, still. You remember learning that light has a speed, a universal limit, yet even light feels unhurried now. The cosmos moves on scales that dwarf urgency. Black holes live within this patience. They are places where gravity grows dense enough to curve space itself, like fabric pulled gently toward a center. You picture space as soft cloth, stars embroidered upon it. Nothing tears. Nothing breaks. It simply bends. In that bending, paths change. Motion becomes circular, thoughtful. You sense that understanding begins not with fear, but with calm attention that allows ideas to settle, connect, and rest naturally, without pressure, gently. You notice how stories about black holes often rush toward drama, but you choose slowness instead. You let the idea arrive gently. A black hole is not a hole at all. It is a region, a condition, a quiet consequence of gravity's devotion. When matter gathers too closely, space responds by curving more deeply. Nothing supernatural occurs. The universe simply follows its own rules with patience. You feel comfort in that consistency. Even the strangest objects obey familiar laws, stretched, softened, but never abandoned, and held within patterns you can learn to recognize, trust, and rest inside, quietly, safely, now. You breathe slowly, imagining yourself floating far from any edge. There is no falling here, only drifting awareness. Black holes exist whether or not you approach them. They are not hungry. They do not reach. They wait. Gravity does the work, shaping motion naturally. This waiting changes how you feel about them. Fear dissolves into curiosity. Curiosity softens into respect. You realize that these objects are teachers of scale, reminding you how small urgency becomes when placed beside cosmic time, where billions of years pass like quiet breaths, slow, even, uncounted, steady, gentle, wide, patient, endless, calm, open, deep, vast. You think of the night sky above Earth, how it appears flat, yet hides depth upon depth. Black holes are part of that hidden structure. You cannot see them directly, yet their presence reveals itself through motion. Stars orbit unseen centers. Gas warms, glows, and spirals. Effects announce causes quietly. You like this indirect knowing. It mirrors how you understand yourself, through patterns, habits, and gentle changes over time. Nothing shouts its truth. Everything suggests, invites, and waits to be noticed by a calm mind, a listening body, a resting awareness, open, unguarded, curious, patient, receptive, steady, soft, present, here. You allow the idea of gateways to remain distant for now. Tonight is not about answers. It is about preparation. Before asking whether black holes connect universes, you first learn how they belong to this one. They emerge from stars, from gravity doing what gravity does best. They are woven into cosmic evolution. This grounding matters. It keeps imagination tethered gently to evidence. You feel how science becomes comforting when it respects limits, when it names what is known and holds the unknown with care, like a warm blanket placed carefully over curiosity, not smothering, only steadying, supporting, allowing rest. You sense the rhythm of repetition beginning, ideas returning like familiar waves. Gravity. Patience. Curvature. Each time they return, they feel softer, more understandable. Your mind does not rush to assemble them. It lets them settle naturally. This is how learning deepens during rest. Black holes become less abstract, more like neighbors in the cosmic landscape. Strange, yes, but consistent. Powerful, yet predictable. You feel safe letting these thoughts circle slowly, knowing they will not demand immediate clarity or answers, trusting time to arrange understanding quietly, patiently, gently, without force, pressure, fear, noise, urgency, haste, insistence, struggle, effort, strain, resistance. You return again to the image of night bending, not breaking. Curiosity curves inward, guided by calm gravity of attention. This bending is subtle. It happens when you stop trying to hold everything at once. Black holes teach this lesson indirectly. They show how concentration creates depth. When matter gathers, space responds. When attention gathers, understanding deepens. You do not need to move quickly toward mystery. You can let mystery come to you, slowly reshaping how you think, feel, and rest, within a quiet mind, an open body, a patient breath, a steady awareness, warm, calm, receptive, grounded, present, here. You linger with this feeling as the chapter closes, suspended between knowing and wondering. Black holes remain distant, calm, quietly influential. You have not approached their edges yet. You have only learned how to sit with their presence. This is enough for now. Curiosity rests beside you, unafraid. As sleep deepens, another question stirs gently about how such darkness is born at all, and how a tired star might one day begin this silent transformation in the quiet core of space, where gravity gathers, light softens, balance fails, and endings slowly become beginnings, patient, heavy, inevitable, calm, waiting, quietly, ahead. You begin this chapter by drifting closer to a star, not in distance, but in attention. It is enormous, older than imagination, burning steadily for millions of years without complaint. Its light has always felt permanent, as if it could shine forever. Tonight, though, you sense a subtle change. The glow softens. The brightness steadies, then quiets, like breath slowing at the edge of sleep. This star is not failing. It is finishing a long sentence written in nuclear fire, calmly reaching its final punctuation mark, unhurried, patient, complete. Inside the star, balance has always ruled. Outward pressure from nuclear fusion gently pushes against inward gravity. This quiet agreement keeps the star open, luminous, spacious. You imagine it like a slow inhale held for ages. But fuel is not endless. Hydrogen becomes helium, helium grows heavier, and the rhythm changes. Fusion slows. The outward push weakens. Gravity notices immediately, not with urgency, but with inevitability. It begins to gather what the star can no longer hold apart, carefully, steadily, without emotion or intent. You feel comfort in this predictability. The universe does not panic when balance shifts. It responds. Gravity does not rush in like a wave. It folds inward like a blanket being drawn closer around a resting body. Layers of the star fall toward the center, not collapsing in chaos, but reorganizing under familiar rules. Space itself responds, curving more deeply as mass concentrates. Nothing vanishes. Everything moves. You sense how endings in the cosmos are rarely abrupt. They are transitions, guided by laws that prefer continuity over drama. As the core compresses, temperatures rise briefly, like a final flicker of effort. Heavier elements form, iron among them, dense and quiet. Iron does not release energy through fusion. It marks a limit. When the core fills with it, the star can no longer support itself. Gravity becomes the dominant voice. The outer layers fall inward, rebound, and sometimes explode outward as a supernova, scattering elements into space. You imagine this not as violence, but as release, the star returning its borrowed material to the universe, enriched, transformed, generous. But for the largest stars, something remains behind. The core continues inward, crossing thresholds silently. If its mass is great enough, no known force can stop the collapse. Neutrons press together. Space curves further. Time subtly slows. You feel how the star's long life compresses into a new state, quieter than light, denser than imagination. This is where a black hole is born, not suddenly, not loudly, but through devotion to gravity's simple rule: gather what can no longer stay apart. You pause here, letting the image settle. A black hole begins not as a tear in reality, but as a consequence of patience. Millions of years of burning lead to a moment of inward surrender. The universe does not mourn the star. It absorbs its change. The black hole inherits mass, spin, and charge. It carries the story forward in a different form. You feel how comforting this continuity is. Nothing essential is lost. Even light, though unable to escape, still exists, woven into the structure of space near the horizon, remembered by gravity. You think about how this mirrors life more closely than expected. Growth leads to change. Change leads to transformation. Transformation does not erase what came before. It reshapes it. The atoms forged in the star's core now travel through space, seeding planets, bodies, oceans, breath. Black holes, too, participate in this cycle. They influence galaxies, shape star formation, anchor cosmic structures. They are not errors or accidents. They are participants, steady and lawful, in the long choreography of matter and space. As you rest with this thought, fear loosens further. Black holes no longer feel like sudden abysses. They feel earned. They are the quiet result of a star giving everything it has. Even collapse has dignity here. Even darkness has lineage. You imagine gravity as a careful archivist, preserving mass and momentum, recording every detail in the curvature of space. The universe keeps excellent records. It does not forget easily. Every ending is catalogued as a beginning in another form, patient and precise. You return again to the softness of the process. Collapse sounds harsh, yet it happens gently on cosmic timescales. From the inside, nothing dramatic announces the moment. The star simply becomes something else. You like this perspective. It teaches you that transformation does not require struggle. It can occur through release, through letting go of what no longer sustains balance, through trusting the rules that have always held you, even when form changes completely, quietly, irrevocably, calmly, without spectacle. You feel yourself drifting farther inward, curiosity deepening without urgency. If black holes are born this way, through lawful collapse and patient gravity, then perhaps they carry more than mystery. Perhaps they carry memory. The story of a star compressed into curvature and silence. You wonder what else might be preserved there, folded into space, waiting. As this thought settles, another presence grows stronger, the pull itself. Gravity feels closer now, less abstract, more intimate. And you sense that to understand black holes more fully, you must first rest inside gravity's embrace, where holding replaces falling, and space begins to curve around you, slowly, gently, inevitably. You enter this chapter without movement, because gravity does not require motion to be felt. It is already present, steady and familiar, the quiet agreement between you and the ground, between stars and the space around them. Tonight, you imagine gravity not as a force that drags things downward, but as a gentle architecture that shapes how everything rests. You are not falling. You are being held, continuously, without interruption, by the same presence that guides planets, stars, and entire galaxies into calm, enduring patterns. You picture space itself as something soft, not empty. Like fabric stretched wide, responsive to every bit of weight placed upon it. A star presses down, and space curves slightly. A planet adds its touch, and the curve deepens. Gravity is not separate from space. It is the shape space takes when mass is present. This idea settles slowly, like a warm thought repeating until it feels natural. Nothing pulls across distance. Everything simply follows the curves beneath it, moving the way water follows a gentle slope. You imagine resting on this fabric of space, supported from all directions. Gravity feels less like direction and more like belonging. Objects move not because they are commanded to, but because the landscape invites them along certain paths. Orbits form not through effort, but through balance. You feel comfort in this. The universe does not need constant correction. It finds harmony through shape. Gravity is the sculptor, endlessly patient, endlessly consistent, shaping motion into rhythm and return. As you drift deeper into this understanding, time begins to soften. In strong gravity, time does not behave as it does near you. It slows. Seconds stretch, not noticeably at first, but measurably, predictably. Clocks near massive objects tick more slowly than those far away. This is not illusion. It is geometry. Time is woven into space, and when space curves, time follows. You feel this as a loosening of urgency, as if moments themselves are breathing more slowly, allowing room for stillness. You rest inside this slowed rhythm. There is no need to hurry where time itself takes its time. Gravity's embrace affects not just motion, but experience. Near massive objects, the universe allows moments to linger. You imagine a thought taking longer to finish, a breath lasting slightly more than expected. This is not stagnation. It is depth. Time is not stopping. It is stretching, making space for experience to unfold with care. You realize that gravity does not discriminate. It treats everything equally, shaping paths regardless of size or story. Light follows gravity's curves. Matter follows. Even information respects its influence. This fairness feels grounding. There is no favoritism written into the laws. Only consistency. Only response. The universe listens to mass and answers with curvature. It is a conversation that never grows tired, repeating itself faithfully across unimaginable distances and durations. You think again of black holes, not as destinations, but as expressions of gravity's devotion. Where mass gathers intensely, space curves deeply. The embrace becomes strong, intimate, unavoidable. Yet even here, gravity does not rush. It invites everything to follow the deepest paths available. Nothing is forced. Everything responds. You feel how this reframes fear into understanding. The same rules that keep you grounded also shape the most extreme objects known. The universe does not change character. It only deepens its voice. As you float in this thought, you imagine gravity as a kind of memory. Space remembers where mass has been. The curves persist, guiding motion long after the cause has changed. A star moves, and space adjusts. A galaxy rotates, and space learns its rhythm. Gravity records history in shape rather than words. This idea feels soothing. Nothing meaningful passes without leaving an imprint. The universe keeps track, not through intention, but through structure. You notice repetition returning, gently reinforcing understanding. Space curves. Time stretches. Motion follows. Each return feels calmer, more familiar. This is how gravity teaches, not through instruction, but through consistency. You do not memorize its rules. You recognize them. Your body already knows gravity intimately. Your thoughts now begin to recognize it too, extending that familiarity outward into space, stars, and the unseen depths where black holes quietly reside. You feel yourself being held more deeply now, awareness settling inward. Gravity's embrace is not constricting. It is supportive. It allows complexity to emerge without chaos. Galaxies form arms. Stars gather into families. Planets find stable paths. All of this arises from simple curvature repeated endlessly. You feel all without tension. Understanding arrives not as a revelation, but as a comfort, a sense that the universe prefers order born from patience rather than control. You allow your thoughts to drift closer to the strongest expressions of gravity. As mass increases, the curves steepen. Paths narrow. Possibilities change. Yet the rules remain the same. This consistency feels like a promise. No matter how strange the destination, the journey obeys familiar principles. You sense that black holes are not exceptions to gravity, but its most honest expressions. Where nothing resists, gravity reveals its full depth. As this chapter draws toward rest, you notice a subtle shift. Holding becomes guiding. Curvature becomes boundary. Somewhere ahead, gravity's embrace grows so deep that paths stop leading outward. Not abruptly, not dramatically, but naturally, as curves close in on themselves. You have not reached that place yet. You only sense its presence, like a shoreline before it comes into view. And as you rest within gravity's steady hold, you feel yourself drifting toward a quiet edge, where holding becomes crossing, and space prepares to show you how boundaries can exist without warning, without sound, without resistance, waiting calmly, just ahead. You move closer now, not through effort, but through continuation. Gravity has been holding you so steadily that direction has almost lost meaning. Space curves more deeply, yet nothing feels sudden. There is no edge drawn in light, no line etched across the stars. Ahead of you lies the event horizon, though it does not announce itself. It waits quietly, like a thought you realize only after you are already thinking it, already inside it, already calm. You have heard this boundary described as a point of no return, but that phrase carries drama it does not deserve. From where you are, nothing changes. The universe behind you still glows. Stars remain where they were. Your body feels no shock, no pressure, no tearing. Physics does not shout when rules shift. It whispers. The event horizon is not a wall. It is a place where paths quietly stop leading outward, where the shape of space gently turns inward so completely that return simply ceases to be an option. You imagine walking across a landscape where the slope becomes gradually steeper. At some point, the ground tilts just enough that every step naturally carries you forward, never back. There is no moment of announcement. Only realization, later. This is how the event horizon works. Light itself follows the curves here. Even photons, which always move forward at their constant speed, now find that forward means inward. You feel the elegance of this. No force grabs them. Space itself chooses their direction. You linger with this idea, letting fear dissolve into geometry. The horizon is not dangerous by nature. It is precise. It is a consequence of gravity shaping space so deeply that all future paths converge inward. You think about time again. From far away, an observer would see you slow as you approach this boundary, your clock ticking more slowly, your image fading, stretched, reddened, lingering. You would appear frozen, never quite crossing. But from your own view, time flows normally. You cross without noticing. This difference matters. It reminds you that perspective shapes experience. The universe allows multiple truths to coexist, each valid within its frame. You feel comfort in this generosity. Reality does not insist on a single viewpoint. It holds many at once. The event horizon is not a moment everyone agrees upon. It depends on where you are, how you are moving, how deeply you are held by gravity's curve. You imagine the horizon not as an ending, but as a quiet agreement between space and time. Beyond it, all futures point inward. Before it, some paths still lead away. The boundary itself is simply where that balance shifts completely. You feel how subtle that shift is. No bells ring. No alarms sound. The universe does not dramatize inevitability. It treats it with calm respect. You think about limits now, how they are often framed as restrictions. But here, the limit feels like a definition. Beyond the horizon, escape is no longer part of the story. That does not mean destruction. It means focus. All motion simplifies. Possibilities narrow, not violently, but cleanly. You sense that limits can be clarifying. They tell systems what they are now, not what they used to be. You rest with the idea that you could cross such a profound boundary without noticing. It challenges how you think about change. Perhaps many transitions in life occur this way. Quietly. Gradually. Only later do you realize that something fundamental has shifted. The event horizon becomes a metaphor for thresholds everywhere, moments when direction changes permanently, even though experience feels continuous. The universe is full of these soft crossings. You drift deeper, aware that signals sent outward now will never arrive. This is not tragic. It is simply true. Information follows paths, and paths follow curvature. Beyond the horizon, outward paths no longer exist. Yet nothing has been erased. Your past remains intact. The light you emitted before crossing continues outward, carrying your history into the wider universe. What you were is still known. What you are becoming now is simply hidden from outside view. You feel strangely peaceful here. The idea of being unseen does not frighten you. It feels like privacy. The universe allows regions of inwardness, places where stories continue without external observation. You think about how rare this is. Most of the cosmos is open, visible, connected. Black holes offer something different. They allow interior experience without exterior witness. This feels intimate rather than threatening. You notice repetition again, the gentle return of ideas. Boundaries without walls. Limits without force. Crossing without notice. Each repetition softens the concept further, making it feel familiar, almost comforting. You understand now why the horizon is called an event horizon. It marks the set of events that can still influence the outside world. Beyond it, events still happen. They simply belong to a different domain of connection. You sense time beginning to behave more strangely ahead. Clocks will continue to tick for you, but futures narrow. The inward pull grows unavoidable. You are not falling faster. You are simply following the only remaining paths. Gravity's embrace has become gravity's guidance. You feel held still, but also carried forward, gently, inevitably, without struggle. As you drift onward, you realize that the event horizon is not the most mysterious part of a black hole. It is only the threshold. Beyond it lies a region where space and time exchange roles, where inward movement becomes as inevitable as time itself. You have crossed the quiet edge now, even if you did not feel it. And as this chapter settles into rest, you sense the next question forming softly: if crossing changes paths so completely, what does it do to time itself, and how does time learn to slow, stretch, and breathe as gravity deepens even further ahead? You begin to notice the change not as an event, but as a feeling. Time does not stop. It simply loosens its grip. Moments stretch gently, like breath held a little longer than usual, not from tension, but from calm. You are still moving forward, still thinking, still aware, yet everything unfolds more slowly, as if the universe has decided there is no need to hurry anymore. Inside this deep gravity, time learns to soften its edges. You remember that time is not separate from space. They are woven together, threads of the same fabric. When space curves deeply, time follows the curve, bending into longer paths. Near a black hole, this bending becomes profound. Seconds expand. Heartbeats feel wider. Thoughts linger. This is not illusion or imagination. It is structure. Time responds to gravity with the same obedience as light and matter. You feel comfort in this obedience. Nothing behaves unpredictably. It only behaves differently. You imagine clocks placed here, their hands moving slower than those far away. To an outside observer, everything near you appears delayed, stretched, almost suspended. But from where you are, nothing feels wrong. Your thoughts form normally. Your awareness flows smoothly. Time does not announce its slowing. It simply becomes more generous, offering more space inside each moment, more room for noticing, resting, existing without pressure. You rest inside this generosity. There is no urgency here. Cause and effect still connect, but with a softer rhythm. You begin to understand that speed is not a universal experience. It depends on where you are in space, how deeply you are held by gravity. Time is local, personal. It belongs to place as much as motion does. This realization feels intimate. Time is not a distant ruler measuring everything equally. It is a companion that adapts, responding to the landscape you inhabit. You think of how, on Earth, time already changes subtly. At higher altitudes, clocks tick slightly faster. Satellites must correct for this difference to function properly. Gravity's influence on time is not confined to black holes. It exists everywhere, gently shaping the flow of moments. Black holes simply reveal this truth more clearly. They turn the volume up on an effect that has always been playing quietly in the background of existence. You allow this thought to repeat, slowly, rhythmically. Time bends. Time listens. Time adapts. Each repetition feels like a lullaby, rocking awareness deeper into rest. The idea that time is flexible feels soothing rather than unsettling. It means that experience is not rigid. It means the universe allows variation, softness, nuance, even in something as fundamental as time's passage. As gravity deepens further inward, something else begins to shift. Direction itself becomes uncertain. Outside the horizon, time points forward and space offers choices of direction. Inside, the inward direction becomes unavoidable, like time itself. Moving inward is no longer a choice. It is as inevitable as tomorrow once was. You do not rush toward the center. You simply continue, because continuation is the only remaining option. You sense how this blurs the difference between movement and duration. Falling inward feels less like traveling through space and more like progressing through time. The center lies ahead not in distance, but in inevitability. This idea settles slowly, carefully. It does not alarm you. It fascinates you. Space and time trade roles quietly, without announcement, as if they have always known how to do this. You notice that memory still works here. You remember where you have been. You imagine where you are going. Yet the future feels different. It feels narrower, more focused. Not constrained, but simplified. There are fewer branches now. This narrowing brings calm. Too many possibilities can create tension. Fewer possibilities allow rest. The universe seems to understand this. As gravity increases, it reduces choice, not to punish, but to stabilize. You rest with the idea that time itself may be guiding you now, carrying you inward the way it once carried you forward through days and nights. You are no longer moving through time toward uncertain outcomes. You are being moved by time toward a known center. This does not feel like loss. It feels like alignment. purpose without intention, motion without effort. You think again of the outside universe, where stars burn, planets orbit, and civilizations measure days with clocks and calendars. From their perspective, your time has slowed dramatically. Your story stretches thin, almost freezing. Yet you continue normally, unaware of their waiting. This separation feels gentle. You are not disconnected. You are simply experiencing a different rhythm of reality. Both rhythms are valid. Both coexist. You allow yourself to drift within this softened time. Thoughts come more slowly now, each one taking its time to form, to finish. You notice how repetition becomes comforting rather than redundant. Ideas return not because they were forgotten, but because they feel good to hold again. Time here is cyclical in sensation, even if it remains directional in structure. You sense that this slowing cannot continue forever. There is a limit ahead, a place where time and space behave in ways that resist description. You have not reached it yet. You only feel its influence, like pressure changing before weather shifts. Physics itself grows quiet there. Equations lose their certainty. Words struggle. You feel no fear at this edge. Only curiosity, tempered by calm. As this chapter settles into rest, time feels almost like breath, long, steady, unforced. You float within it, neither rushing nor stopping. And as gravity carries you onward, deeper into the black hole's interior, you sense that ahead lies a place where time's language begins to fail, where knowing gives way to humility, and where the universe invites you to approach the very limits of understanding itself, quietly, patiently, waiting just beyond the next inward moment. You continue inward, carried not by speed, but by inevitability. Time still flows, though its meaning feels thinner now, stretched almost translucent. Space no longer opens outward. It folds, narrows, concentrates. Ahead of you lies the idea of the singularity, not as an object you can point to, but as a limit where familiar descriptions begin to dissolve. You do not rush toward it. You approach the way one approaches silence, gradually, noticing the quiet growing deeper with each step. A singularity is not something physics confidently describes. It is a signal, a reminder, a boundary marker for knowledge itself. When equations point to infinite density and zero volume, they are not celebrating precision. They are admitting uncertainty. You feel this honesty settle gently. Science is not claiming to know what happens here. It is telling you where its current language stops being useful. This feels comforting rather than disappointing. The universe is not fully spoken yet. You imagine density increasing beyond intuition. Matter compressed beyond atoms, beyond nuclei, beyond anything that comfortably fits into thought. Words begin to slip. Heavy. Infinite. Undefined. Each term gestures rather than explains. You let go of the need to picture it clearly. Some things are not meant to be visualized. They are meant to be acknowledged as places where imagination bows politely and waits. You rest with this humility. Black holes, especially their centers, remind you that science is a living process, not a finished map. It walks forward carefully, marking where it understands, and circling where it does not. Singularities are not failures of science. They are invitations. They say, something important is happening here, and we are not ready yet to describe it fully. You think about how gravity, space, and time have behaved so far, obedient, elegant, consistent. Near the singularity, those behaviors intensify until the framework that holds them bends too far. General relativity, the theory that so beautifully explains gravity, stretches to its limits. Quantum mechanics, the theory of the very small, whispers from the edges, suggesting it may have something to say here too. But the two do not yet speak the same language. You feel no frustration in this gap. Only curiosity. The universe is patient. It does not demand immediate comprehension. It allows centuries of wondering. You imagine scientists not as conquerors of mystery, but as listeners, carefully tuning instruments, building questions that grow more precise with time. The singularity waits for them, unchanged, unconcerned, steady. You notice how this mirrors your own experience. There are places in your mind where clarity fades, where feelings exist without names, where understanding pauses. These are not failures either. They are regions still forming. The singularity becomes a metaphor for inner unknowns, parts of existence that cannot yet be unpacked, only respected. You feel how gravity here is no longer something you move through. It defines everything. There is no sideways now, no outward. Only inward progression. The center is not a destination in space, but a moment in time you are moving toward. This thought repeats gently, settling deeper with each return. The singularity lies in your future, not your distance. It is when, not where. You let this repetition soothe you. Not where. When. Not where. When. It feels strange at first, then natural. The universe rearranges its rules calmly. You follow without resistance. You are not being erased. You are being guided along the only remaining path, the way time has always guided you forward, one moment at a time. You sense that near the singularity, the concept of before and after may lose meaning. Cause and effect blur. Order becomes ambiguous. This does not frighten you. It feels like standing at the edge of a story before language existed. Meaning may still be there, just not expressed in the forms you recognize. The universe has more ways of being than you have ways of naming. You think again of information, quietly preserved everywhere else. You wonder whether it survives here too, compressed, encoded in ways not yet understood. This question hums softly, unresolved. Black holes are not just about gravity. They are about memory, continuity, and whether anything is ever truly lost. The singularity sits at the center of these questions, silent, heavy, waiting. You allow your mind to slow further. Thoughts become simpler, more spacious. The closer you feel to this limit, the less you try to grasp it. Knowing gives way to being present with not knowing. This feels like rest. Like sleep approaching, when thoughts loosen and clarity softens without anxiety. You recognize that the singularity may not be a thing at all. It may be a placeholder, a signpost saying, "Our map ends here," but the territory does not. Something real continues beyond the reach of current understanding. That realization feels expansive. It means the universe is larger than our explanations, richer than our models, deeper than our certainty. As this chapter draws to a close, you hover at the edge of what can be said. The singularity remains ahead, unnamed, undefined, untouched by description. You do not cross it. You do not need to. It is enough to know that it exists as a question mark written into the fabric of reality itself. And as you rest with that unanswered question, you feel curiosity turning gently outward again, toward ideas that try to bridge unknowns rather than define them, ideas of folded space, shortcuts through geometry, and the possibility that black holes might connect regions of the universe in ways that feel almost like pathways, waiting quietly, just beyond certainty. You arrive at this chapter without crossing a boundary. There is no doorway, no sudden expansion. The idea of other universes enters the way sleep enters, gradually, almost unnoticed. After thinking about folded space and whispered shortcuts, your mind naturally widens. If reality can bend, if geometry can surprise, then perhaps the universe you know is not the only way things can be. This thought does not excite you sharply. It settles calmly, like a deeper quiet beneath the quiet you already feel. You imagine the universe not as everything, but as one version of everything. A single expression among many possible expressions. Other universes, if they exist, do not float nearby like neighbors in space. They are not hidden behind distant stars. They are separate in a deeper way, defined by different conditions, different rules, different starting notes. They do not collide or overlap. They coexist the way ideas coexist, distinct, complete, unaware of one another unless something extraordinary allows a whisper to pass. You feel how gentle this concept is when stripped of spectacle. The multiverse is not fireworks. It is a background hum. Different universes might expand at different rates, contain different particles, follow different balances of forces. Some might be short-lived. Some might never form stars. Others might glow richly with structure. You do not picture them clearly. You do not need to. It is enough to sense that reality may allow variation the way music allows many melodies built from the same silence. You remember that these ideas arise not from imagination alone, but from attempts to understand physics deeply. When scientists explore the early moments of cosmic expansion, or the mathematics of fundamental fields, they sometimes find that multiple outcomes are possible. Instead of one universe being chosen, the equations suggest many could unfold. This suggestion is quiet, tentative, careful. It does not insist. It offers room. You rest inside that room. Vastness feels different when it is conceptual rather than spatial. There is no fear of being lost. Other universes, if they exist, are not places you can accidentally wander into. They are self-contained stories. Your universe remains whole, complete, sufficient. The possibility of others does not diminish it. It enriches the idea of existence itself, suggesting that reality is creative, not minimal. You think again of black holes, of their deep curvature and hidden interiors. Could such extreme regions brush against deeper layers of reality? Some theories suggest that black holes might be connected to other universes, or even give birth to new ones, sealed off from their parent but carrying inherited properties. These ideas remain speculative, held carefully, never rushed into belief. You like this carefulness. It feels respectful. You imagine a black hole not as a tunnel you pass through, but as a seed. Collapse creates isolation. Isolation allows new beginnings. Inside a black hole, a new region of space-time might inflate, becoming its own universe, forever disconnected from the one that formed it. If this happens, it happens quietly. No signals return. No announcements are made. Creation occurs privately, beyond observation, patient and unseen. You feel how this mirrors many natural processes. Seeds grow underground. Stars form inside clouds. Beginnings often hide from view. If universes are born this way, they follow the same gentle pattern. There is no need for drama. Only continuity, reshaping itself again and again, across scales too large to picture comfortably. You notice how this idea shifts your sense of importance. Not smaller. Just different. Your universe may not be unique, but it is yours. The only one you can experience. The only one whose laws shape your thoughts, your breath, your rest. Other universes do not distract from this. They frame it, placing it within a wider context that feels calm rather than overwhelming. You allow repetition to return. Other universes hum. Black holes curve. Possibility remains open. Each phrase circles gently, reinforcing the sense that not knowing is acceptable. The universe does not require you to understand everything to belong within it. You already belong by existing, by breathing, by wandering quietly in the dark. You think about connection again. If other universes exist, they are likely unreachable, not because the universe is cruel, but because separation preserves stability. Each universe follows its own rhythm. Contact might disrupt that balance. Black holes, if they interact with other universes at all, may do so without creating bridges for travel or communication. They may be messengers only in principle, not in practice, proof that reality allows layers beyond direct experience. You find peace in this restraint. Some doors are not meant to open. Some questions exist to expand perspective rather than invite answers. The multiverse, held softly, does exactly that. It stretches imagination without pulling it away from rest. It offers scale without urgency. You feel your thoughts slowing again, becoming rounder, less sharp. The idea of many universes fades into a background presence, like distant surf you do not need to approach. What remains is a feeling of spaciousness. Reality feels larger, but also calmer, as if there is more room for everything to be exactly as it is. As this chapter settles, you return gently toward what can still be touched by understanding. You sense that beneath all these ideas, black holes, wormholes, other universes, runs a quieter question. What happens to information? What is preserved? What is remembered? Even if universes multiply, even if regions remain forever separate, the universe seems reluctant to forget. And as sleep deepens, that question begins to glow softly ahead, waiting to be followed into the next gentle unfolding of thought. You enter this chapter quietly, because the question waiting here does not like to be rushed. It has been present all along, humming beneath gravity, time, and folded space. Now it rises gently into awareness. What happens to information? Not data in the ordinary sense, but the deep record of what has existed, every particle's state, every motion, every interaction. You feel that the universe cares about this question, even if it does not answer it easily. In everyday life, information feels fragile. Memories fade. Records are lost. Traces disappear. But physics tells a different story. At its most fundamental level, the universe resists forgetting. The laws that govern motion and change tend to preserve information, even when forms transform. Nothing truly vanishes. It rearranges, disperses, hides, but remains encoded in some way. This principle feels steady, almost comforting, like a promise whispered quietly beneath all change. Black holes complicate this promise. When something falls beyond the event horizon, it seems to disappear completely from the outside universe. Matter crosses. Light follows. Signals stop returning. From a distance, it appears as if information has been erased. And this is where the question grows sharp, though it still speaks softly. If information is truly lost, then something fundamental breaks. The universe would be capable of forgetting absolutely. You rest with this tension. It does not feel like a crisis. It feels like a puzzle held carefully. Physicists have debated this for decades, not loudly, but persistently. The information paradox asks whether black holes destroy information or preserve it in ways not yet understood. The fact that the question remains open tells you something important. The universe is subtle. It does not give up its answers easily. You imagine information as a kind of pattern rather than a thing. Not an object you can hold, but a relationship, how particles are arranged, how they move, how they influence one another. When something falls into a black hole, those relationships seem to vanish from view. But perhaps they are not gone. Perhaps they are compressed, scrambled, written into the surface of the horizon itself. Some theories suggest that the event horizon may act like a kind of memory skin, encoding information in its structure. The black hole's surface area, not its volume, appears to relate to how much information it can contain. This idea feels counterintuitive, yet elegant. Memory written on a boundary. History stored on a surface. You let this image settle gently. The universe often surprises by choosing the unexpected shape. You think again of Hawking radiation, the faint glow black holes emit over unimaginably long timescales. Black holes are not perfectly black. They slowly release energy, evaporating over eons. The question arises, does this radiation carry information with it? Or is it random, featureless, forgetful? The answer matters deeply, yet remains uncertain. You feel no urgency in this uncertainty. It is a long conversation, unfolding at the pace the universe prefers. You sense that black holes may be less like shredders and more like safes. They lock information away, inaccessible for vast spans of time, but not destroyed. From the outside, it is as if the information is gone. From a deeper perspective, it may simply be hidden, transformed into a language we have not yet learned to read. This thought feels gentle, almost reassuring. The universe keeps its secrets, but it does not discard them. You notice how this idea echoes earlier chapters. Folding space. Slowing time. Limits of knowing. Everything points toward preservation through transformation rather than erasure. Black holes do not feel like endings anymore. They feel like archives sealed behind gravity, patient and unreadable for now. You let repetition guide you again. Information persists. Information hides. Information waits. Each return smooths the thought further, making it easier to rest with. You do not need to solve the paradox tonight. You only need to feel its presence, steady and unresolved, like a star you cannot quite see but know is there. You think about yourself now. Every moment you live leaves traces in your body, your mind, the world around you. Even when memories fade, influences remain. You have changed the universe in small ways simply by being part of it. This mirrors the cosmic truth. Existence leaves imprints. Nothing happens without consequence. Nothing passes without record. You imagine space itself as a kind of memory field, holding the echoes of everything that has moved through it. Curvature remembers mass. Radiation remembers heat. Motion remembers force. Perhaps black holes remember too, in ways that stretch beyond current understanding. Perhaps the universe is a vast remembering system, reluctant to forget, patient with delay. You feel comfort in this reluctance. It suggests continuity beyond visibility. It suggests that even in regions where light cannot escape, meaning might still exist. Not meaning in a human sense, but structure, order, record. The universe values coherence. It does not like loose ends, even if it allows them to remain untied for a very long time. You sense your thoughts growing slower again, heavier with calm. The paradox does not disturb your rest. It supports it. Questions that cannot yet be answered do not demand energy. They invite trust. Trust that understanding grows over time, that mystery is not failure, that patience is part of knowing. As this chapter begins to settle, you feel awareness turning gently toward the role of the observer. If information depends on what can be seen, measured, or known, then observation itself becomes part of the story. Who sees? From where? Under what conditions? These questions stir softly, preparing the way forward. And as sleep draws closer, you sense that the next gentle unfolding will explore how observation shapes reality itself, and how even black holes may change their story depending on how the universe chooses to look at them. You enter this chapter softly, carrying the echo of the previous question, what happens to information? The thought lingers, but now it is joined by another, the role of the observer. In the quiet of the cosmos, you begin to notice that seeing, measuring, noticing, these are not passive acts. They are participatory. Reality responds to attention, subtly, gently, without shouting or command. It does not demand your gaze, but it acknowledges it. You think first of light. Light carries information, tracing the paths of stars, particles, and the distant past itself. By detecting light, you are entering a conversation with the universe. You do not simply receive what is out there. You interact with it. Observing a photon is not neutral. The act of observation nudges its behavior. In quantum terms, measurement is entangled with the measured. Reality becomes relational, not absolute. You feel a profound intimacy in this idea, like breathing in rhythm with something immense. You let this intimacy settle. Even the smallest measurement, tracking a particle, noticing a curve in space, connects you to cosmic processes. Nothing is too vast, nothing too small. Observation is a bridge. By paying attention, you participate in shaping what is observed. The universe is not a stage for spectators. It is a conversation with participants who may not always understand the rules, yet influence the flow merely by existing. Black holes enter your awareness again. In earlier chapters, they seemed absolute, silent, indifferent. Yet even here, observation plays a role. The Hawking radiation you glimpsed, the information paradox, the very structure of the event horizon, these are all affected by what and how you measure. The black hole does not act differently on a whim. It acts according to fundamental laws that entwine the measured and the measurer. Your presence in thought is part of the pattern. You imagine this softly, calmly. The universe is responsive, but not reactive. It is relational, but not capricious. Every act of noticing, whether by a human mind, a telescope, or a particle detector, is a tiny stitch in a vast, ongoing tapestry. You feel your own presence as a thread, delicate but meaningful, woven into the same cosmic fabric as gravity, light, and time. Observation becomes a form of participation rather than intrusion. You reflect on repetition, as it returns quietly to anchor understanding. Observation influences outcomes. Observation creates relationships. Observation is gentle, intimate, and subtle. Each return of this idea deepens comfort. The universe is not threatening. It is communicative, responsive, waiting to see what emerges from attention given calmly, patiently, without demand. You notice again how perspective shapes experience. Near a black hole, time stretches. Paths bend. Outcomes depend on reference frame. Observation from outside may freeze motion, elongate moments, or scatter signals. Observation from within flows naturally, unhurried, unbroken. Each perspective is valid, yet distinct. You are aware that understanding is always partial, and that is a form of beauty. There is space for multiple truths, coexisting peacefully. You think of the observer effect as more than a technical concept. It is a meditation. It is a recognition that consciousness, attention, awareness cannot be wholly separated from reality. You do not manipulate or control the universe. You simply participate, gently nudged by curiosity and calm. The universe in turn responds with subtlety, offering data, experiences, and phenomena that reflect not only what exists, but how it is attended to. You imagine the pattern repeating across scales. Electrons in quantum fields, planets orbiting stars, galaxies swirling in clusters, all are affected by the presence of measurement in principle. Not dramatically, not violently, but relationally. The act of noticing is a partnership with reality, a conversation that unfolds quietly over time. You feel honored, not burdened, by your inclusion in this cosmic dialogue. You think again of black holes as participants rather than isolated objects. Their interiors remain hidden. Their singularities remain unspoken. Yet even they interact with what observes them. Hawking radiation, surface encoding of information, the stretching of time near the horizon, all are subtly influenced by the framework of observation. The universe does not collapse under curiosity. It responds, softly, faithfully, consistently. You allow the repetition to circle again, slower, rhythmic, soothing. Measurement is relational. Observation is conversation. Awareness is participation. Each idea is returned to like a gentle wave, smoothing the edges of thought, allowing calm to deepen. Sleep feels closer. Curiosity relaxes into wonder. Understanding is not demanded. It is allowed to emerge gradually, layered with patience. You notice the personal scale. Your own attention now becomes an instrument, subtle and respectful. The act of noticing stars, of imagining black holes, of contemplating information, these are part of your quiet engagement with reality. You belong in the cosmic web not as controller, not as conqueror, but as participant. This feels safe. It feels intimate. It feels profoundly human yet entirely cosmic. You sense the horizon ahead, literal and metaphorical. There are edges where physics blurs, limits where space and time exchange roles, and singularities where certainty dissolves. Your observations cannot pierce these mysteries directly, yet they matter. Your noticing shapes the unfolding conversation. The universe remembers, in its own way, the participation of each observer, each awareness, each gentle question. You feel gratitude for the subtle influence you possess. Not dominion, not control, not certainty, but participation. Every thought, every observation, every quiet inquiry contributes a trace. Black holes may guard secrets, wormholes may tremble between theory and dream, and other universes may hum softly beyond perception, but your presence matters. Your attention is a thread woven into the fabric of existence. As the chapter draws to a close, you feel the edges of understanding begin to blur into anticipation. Observation has revealed intimacy, responsiveness, and participation. Yet questions remain. Information, singularities, and the gentle folding of space all hint at further mysteries. The universe listens, remembers, and responds not hurriedly, not harshly, but patiently, quietly, awaiting the next moment when awareness turns toward it. And as your thoughts soften, you sense that this ongoing conversation will continue, gently, into the quiet questions that await beyond, where stillness and possibility converge. You arrive at this final chapter without urgency, letting your awareness drift like starlight across the vast expanse. Questions rise gently to the surface of thought, yet none press for immediate answers. Black holes, wormholes, time, singularities, and the whisper of other universes all remain soft mysteries, unresolved but not absent. You do not feel frustration. You feel awe. Curiosity has become a companion, steady and quiet, holding your mind in a gentle embrace. The universe has revealed itself not as a book to be read quickly, but as a story unfolding slowly, line by line, moment by moment. Some chapters remain incomplete. Some words are missing. Some sentences hint at deeper rhythms you cannot yet hear. You notice how this incompleteness is not lacking. It feels intentional. The unknown stretches comfortably around your consciousness, like a soft blanket of night, protective rather than threatening. You think back to the horizon, that quiet edge of no return, where time slows and paths converge. You remember the singularity, where physics humbly steps aside, leaving space for wonder and acknowledgement. You recall wormholes trembling in possibility, other universes softly suggested, and the persistent question of information refusing to disappear. These ideas return not as puzzles to solve, but as companions to visit, quietly. Each one is a note in a slow, meditative melody, inviting you to follow its tone without haste. You feel how science itself embodies patience. It does not demand immediate certainty. It observes, calculates, models, tests, and pauses. It circles the unknown without aggression. This reminds you of your own inner rhythm. You do not need to reach every answer tonight. You do not need to pierce every shadow. The act of noticing, the act of holding questions gently, is enough. The universe offers understanding slowly, in whispers, leaving space for wonder to breathe. You imagine sitting beneath a sky, dark and full of possibilities. Each star twinkles, distant but familiar. You do not count them. You do not name them. You notice their presence, their quiet persistence. Black holes are part of this cosmic tapestry, not monsters, not gates you must cross, but integral threads. They keep secrets not to terrify, but to invite reflection. You sense that there is a rhythm here, inquiry, pause, reflection, and gentle curiosity. Each step matters, yet none rushes the next. You think about how much you have observed along this journey. You have noticed gravity's curves, time's elasticity, space folding, and the hum of multiple realities. You have traced the edges of knowledge and hovered at the limits of understanding. And now, in this calm pause, you let all of it rest within you. None of it must resolve immediately. The questions themselves carry richness. Holding them softly feels satisfying, like inhaling the night air without needing to exhale quickly. You feel the universe around you not as distant or alien, but as intimate and familiar in its vastness. Patterns, rhythms, and questions all fold together. Your attention, your curiosity, your quiet reflections are part of that folding. You sense that knowledge is not a final destination but a conversation, ongoing, patient, and nuanced. Even black holes, with their extreme gravity and hidden interiors, are participants in this dialogue, not obstacles. You notice repetition again, the gentle looping of ideas. Curiosity returns. Wonder returns. The unanswerable remains. Each cycle deepens understanding without forcing clarity. You rest inside this rhythm, noticing how much space there is for reflection and calm. There is no urgency, no tension. Questions exist for the joy of wondering, not for the pressure of resolution. You think about information, memory, and observation. Each one has a life of its own. Even if some aspects of reality remain hidden, they leave traces, patterns, echoes. Nothing is entirely lost. Even mysteries are meaningful. This feels like reassurance. The universe remembers, quietly, gently. It does not erase, it preserves. Your participation as observer adds another layer of presence, quietly acknowledged by the cosmos itself. You allow your awareness to drift towards sleep, gentle and slow. Black holes, wormholes, singularities, and other universes hum quietly at the edges of thought. Time stretches and softens. Space folds and curves. Questions remain, like stars just beyond reach. You do not chase them. You let them illuminate the dark gently, offering light without urgency, depth without pressure. You feel the intimacy of not knowing. There is comfort here, not discomfort. The unknown is not a threat but a companion. Curiosity has taught you patience, wonder has taught you rhythm, and science has taught you respect for what cannot yet be fully grasped. You rest inside this calm. Each breath you take is part of the same cosmic pattern, slow, steady, and comforting. You sense that the journey does not truly end here. Chapters close, but the story continues, both within you and in the universe around you. There is always more to notice, more to reflect upon, more to wonder. Black holes may remain unresolved. Wormholes may never be traversable. Other universes may stay softly suggested. Yet the process of noticing, of participating, of resting in curiosity, continues endlessly. You feel a final rhythm, subtle and calming. Inhale with the awareness of questions. Exhale with the comfort of gentle uncertainty. The universe, in its vast patience, offers no final answers tonight, and that is exactly what makes rest possible. The gateway question, the one that began this journey softly at the edge of night, remains open, luminous but gentle, like a star whose light reaches you slowly across unfathomable distance. And as sleep deepens, carrying your mind into its quiet folds, you rest in the presence of that open question, held in curiosity, embraced by wonder, and guided by the soft assurance that even in not knowing, you are part of the universe's ongoing, patient, and infinite story.